Favorite people.
Looks good. Welcome, everyone. We'll just give a minute or two to let everyone get joined, and then we'll get started.
Is it showing up okay, the screen share?
Yep, looks good.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Oops. Let's get started. Welcome to Lunchtime Learning with Dr. Juanita Simmons and MJJA stopRED. If you will be requesting CLE credit, I will put the course code in the chat. It's 774100. Feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation by use of the chat or simply taking yourself off mute. Please mute yourself unless you're speaking. Please take the survey at the end of the session. It's vital for our grant funding and to make improvements. The recording, along with other past sessions, will be available on stopred.org, typically like the beginning of next week, along with the presentation slides. I want to take the time to thank our funding source. Funds are made available for this project through the Missouri Department of Public Safety and the Missouri Juvenile Justice Advisory Group from funding provided by the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Simmons.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in the Missouri Juvenile Justice Association's Red Lunchtime Learning. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to Riley Yoder. He is our presenter today. Now, most of you know him because of his near 10 years of service in the St. Louis area family courts. He is currently working as the Community Initiatives Coordinator for St. Louis City Courts, St. Louis County. Right. And we're so excited today because he's going to share with us diversionary activities and community partnership. Before I give the floor to you, Mr. Yoder, I want to remind everyone that we frame our presentations and our invitations based upon your survey and what you say that you want and need. And so we see that diversionary projects and community relationships is an additional thread. So we are honored to present to you that. And we have today, as I said, Riley Yoder. Riley, you've got the floor, and thank you again for being
All
here.
right, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm Riley. My job takes on many roles, but one I enjoy the most, and we will be presenting to you on today, will be ways to engage and be involved with the community from the family court's perspective. This is what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to be going into what the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative is and how it helps guide decision making in the 21st Judicial Circuit. We will go into the planning, logistics, and overview for our quarterly community collaborative meetings, our Juvenile Justice Conference committees that work with diversion in the community, and our somewhat recently formed Parent Conversations group. Like Liz said, if you have any questions as we go through the presentation, please type them in the chat because I don't have access to seeing it. So for introduction, the courts play a vital role in the community they serve in addressing community needs. Courts can actively listen to community concerns. They can involve residents in problem-solving initiatives. They can collaborate with other agencies and organizations to address societal issues like crime, health, and social stability. And courts and judges can engage with communities through education and outreach programs, helping to destigmatize the judicial process and help build relationships and understanding. As we go through this presentation, there will be examples of how the St. Louis County Juvenile Office collaborates with the community at different levels, our parent conversation and town hall for listening to community concerns, our community collaborative meetings to collaborate with other agencies to address reform issues, and involving residents in problem-solving initiatives like our community-based diversion groups. Although these examples of how St. Louis County is collaborating with the community, each jurisdiction will have its own unique issues,
314
stakeholders, demographics,
574
and approach to collaboration.
7196.
Excuse me a minute. There's someone who needs to mute the mic, and we're hearing your conversation. Please mute your mic. Sorry about that, Riley.
That's okay. So next we're going to get into our Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative. The 21st Judicial Circuit has been a participatory site for the JDAI initiative. JDAI envisions youth involved in the juvenile justice system will have equitable opportunities to develop into healthy adults. JDAI embraces the importance of system reform and recognizes the importance of collaboration for successful system reform efforts. One of those core strategies for JDAI is collaboration, and that focuses on the importance of establishing a collaborative membership, includes community-based organizations, community representative, system actors, and impacted youth and families. It also looks at alternatives to detention and diversionary methods that we can use to offer new or enhanced community-based alternatives to secure detention. Family court diversion programs offer alternatives to traditional court proceedings, focusing on rehabilitation and support. And so we have some of the major community-based programs that we're going to get into, but I wanted to highlight some of our other ones that St. Louis County does as well. St. Louis County is committed to engaging with some of the community at all levels of involvement. Some of the other methods the family court uses to engage the community include our Youth Recognition Night. This is put on twice a year. That's a family-style dinner where youth who are on our supervision with the court are honored by our juvenile officer, judiciary, and court staff. A motivational speaker speaks at the event, and this is oftentimes a youth's first time receiving a reward, especially in front of their family. We have school diversion programs that we partner with around St. Louis County, looking at our data to see where we would be most effective with those programs. We have our town hall meetings. These are community-based meetings hosted by the family court to engage, educate, and listen to community members on racial and ethnic disparities and strategies that the court offers. And then we also do back to school resource fairs, just try and get involved in our community whenever we can in a positive way. Got a little picture of that for a back to school resource fair. Also wanted to highlight a few other things we do as well. Those pictures on the left, that's a youth working in our Victory Garden, which is a space donated to us from a community partner. Court-involved youth are able to learn the process for growing and harvesting vegetables, which are donated to a local community center. And then on the right side there, this is a youth program with our school diversion with the Berkeley Fire Department, where over the summer, the school diversion program got to meet up with them, go on a hands-on tour, do some education, kind of learn how being a firefighter works. We're going to get into the big one here, which is our JDAI community collaborative meetings. These meetings serve as an opportunity for our community partners to collaborate with judiciary and staff from the court, along with various community partners that represent education, law enforcement, service and treatment providers, children's division, mental health services, and the most important, past children or parents that were system involved as well. Their voice is very crucial for these meetings too. This picture here is from our one in March where we were collaborating, working on an assessment center that's going to serve as St. Louis County. So what are these community collaborative meetings? The main objectives of these meetings are hosted quarterly by the St. Louis County Family Court during the lunch hour. We present out themed information and data from the court's end. We try to engage our community partners to generate conversation and discussion on how we can better serve our community. This also serves as a platform for a wide range of community partners to collaborate and network with each other. You know, I don't know how many other organizations kind of host that platform where we can get all the juvenile justice professionals in a room together. I think it's a great thing to have. Our community partners currently consist of law enforcement, school administrators, teachers, staff, guidance counselors at the schools, service providers, Department of Mental Health. The faith-based community is very important as well. Former involved parents, prosecutors, attorneys, anyone that has a hand in the juvenile justice system, services after, mental health, anything working with our kids. We try to get at least some representation at these community collaborative meetings. Looking at collaboration with these, collaboration and leadership among system and community stakeholders is a starting point for meaningful juvenile justice improvements. That's the whole point of these community collaborative meetings, is that we're looking at embracing the importance of system reform and recognizing the importance of collaboration for successful system reform efforts. There's always ongoing issues that arise in our field, new trends, new topics, way we can get on top of certain trends as well. It's just nice to have that collaborative voice in the room. Structure and planning, who needs to be at the table for these planning meetings? And so if you're at the court and you want to start to host these sort of community collaborative meetings, if you're starting from the beginning, court leadership is crucial to the success of planning community collaborative-based events. Having our chief juvenile officer and judiciary leaders make this very easy, easy to get things into action when we talk about them. Managerial roles, directors of delinquency, probation, field supervision, legal services, child care and protection, and also community and data-based roles as well, because a lot of the stuff we present is data that's kind of driving the discussion for what we need to focus on next. These meeting structures and goals. Discussions for meeting topics are heavily driven by both JDAI core values relating to the juvenile justice system reform and ongoing shifting needs within the community. Some of our past topics have been 988 and the destigmatization of mental health, and also brainstorming and collaboration towards an assessment center. We think of the most beneficial ways to engage and implement our community partners within these topics. For example, when the court presented on mental health services at a previous event, we invited partners from behavioral health resources and Vision for Children at Risk to present on 988 and what their organization can provide related to the topic. If you don't have data or any way to find topics, you can pick something easy and accessible, like explaining social and referral data your court receives. You can look at trends like social media in schools, youth and technology, different things that you can look at to put on your agenda for these meetings. Some of our past meeting topics. So like I said, that court referral data, that's usually one we do to start off the year. This is data presented out to community partners that includes social data, includes zip code numbers, income levels, types of referrals, racial and ethnic disparities. This information can be crucial to community partners to understand what trends and gaps providers can try and account for. It also just educates a lot of our partners. We do post an annual RED report that has a lot of these numbers in it, but I don't know how many other organizations or courts are publicly posting data, so it's just nice to verse yourself on that. Mental health and 988. The court spoke on our family and clinical services related to mental health that are offered by the court. And then we also invited some of our community partners to speak on related programs they have and how to use and operate 988. We have our educational services we spoke about. That's speaking with our educational services offered. Had our principal from the detention school and our detention center present and engage school partners around the room as to how evolving behavioral trends with youth in school and what are some potential ways we can combat that. And lastly, the assessment center, picture on the bottom right. We collaborated with one of our community partners, the Court Collective, to bring together a diverse room of professionals in our field to best brainstorm and discuss how we can implement an assessment center that would service St. Louis County. Over 100 plus partners attended, and it was engaged by a consulting firm and small breakout groups to really capture ideas and voices. We're always looking for brainstorming ideas, polling attendees as to what they would like to see or learn about, offering partners like law enforcement, Department of Mental Health to cater a theme presentation around the work they do. We're always trying to collaborate and find something relevant, especially with juvenile justice reform, that we can help with. One more slide on the assessment center, a nice little press release photo in the top left, but the assessment center collaboration process deserves a secondary spotlight as this project has involved a higher level of collaboration to bring together policymakers from all areas to make sure the center can capture and serve the needs of St. Louis County, specifically North County, where we see an increase in those needs. And so where this collaboration kind of came through was we have referral data that we can present. So we started off this meeting by having collaboration efforts for this event included displaying data to highlight disparities in needs, capturing voices for successful implementation from all fields, and properly engaging professionals so they know their expertise and knowledge is going somewhere. An example of setting up the platform for discussion, but letting the members and partners be the driving voice of that discussion is a lot of what we're trying to do with the JDAI platform here. And then lastly on these, I just wanted to share some things that really worked well and continue to work well with these JDAI meetings. The biggest thing being judiciary buy-in and leadership. St. Louis County Family Court is very blessed to have such an involved and strong presence with our judicial officers at everything JDAI and community related. They show up to youth recognition dinners, volunteer recognition dinners. That picture in the bottom has two of our commissioners, one commissioner, one judge, and then a presiding judge as well. Juvenile officers advocate for the system reforms. They provide a level of encouragement and commitment most positions cannot. They also have the power and influence to help drive decision making in policy or implement programs or services that our partners are using. I just want to make a note. I would feel confident saying that if we did not have the buy-in and leadership of our judicial officers, this level of community engagement would not be possible. And then catering it to St. Louis County. St. Louis County is one of the largest circuits in the state and represents a unique set of needs and population to serve that is a little different than the rest of the state, especially if you look at the race data across the state. As you begin to form your own levels of community collaborative groups, these must be a little smaller and engage a smaller audience of community partners. Just wanted to highlight quality over quantity, having the right people at the table that can help brainstorm and work towards juvenile justice reform far outweigh the amount of people there. Being strategic in who you invite to the table and who can actually help implement things. I also want to include one more thing that didn't make it on the slide, but serving as a facilitator and platform for the events, but letting the voice of the community partners and attendees be the main focal point. When I first started, I was doing, long presentations and kind of have developed into setting up the room and setting up the main information coming from the people we invite to these events. And so if you're starting to strategize how you want to do these, make sure you include a lot of time for partners to network, connect, kind of hear that voice back from them. That's all I have on JDI Community Collaboratives. Are there any questions at this time? Am I good to go forward, Liz?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, just double checking before I get into the next thing. So the next thing we're going to get into is our Juvenile Conference Committees. JCCs, as I'll refer to them from here on out, but these are one of our forms of restorative justice that we offer that is directly community-based, and I love the idea of this. The JCC is a diversionary program that utilizes the principles of restorative justice to process first-time, nonviolent juvenile offenders. Juveniles will appear before a committee of 4 to 6 volunteers that reside in the same community as the offenders and a police officer from that jurisdiction as well. Committee members review police reports and other case information to develop a plan of action in effort to repair harm done and reestablish trust in the community. I also put the Juvenile Conference Committee coordinator's email and name down there as well. If you want to reach out to her for anything, you're more than welcome to. Referral criteria for this. So these are technically law violations that are occurring, most often at the misdemeanor level. They try to reserve this for first-time, nonviolent misdemeanor offenses. These are labeled as informal cases, which means they are voluntary for the family to participate in. The chart in front of you kind of highlights the pipeline of how you're eligible for the program and the process. So as we receive paper referrals to our assessment and screening unit, the managers down there will pick out the ones that they think are eligible for this JCC process, and they will send it to the coordinator. The coordinator will then contact the family, review the process with them, and schedule a date. The family will meet with the committee in the community they reside in and committed the law violation in. It is important to note the collaboration also includes a police officer from that jurisdiction to be there, and I think that really helps with the process as well. The committee has a variety of restorative practices they can utilize, such as writing an essay, community service, restitution, letter of apology. They can get kind of creative with it in a sense. The youth will enter into a contract with the committee and will return on a monthly basis as an update progress steps along the way. Once all those steps are completed, the youth is officially released from the JCC. Some of those benefits of the JCC, for the juvenile, they provide the juvenile an opportunity to become more constructively involved in their community. It also helps the juvenile understand accountability, responsibility, consequences, and making appropriate choices. For the victims are more satisfied with the process of providing closure. Fear of being re-victimized by the same juvenile is reduced. and juveniles who meet their victims are more likely to successfully complete their restitution obligations. And then the parents as well. The parents have a voice in the recommendations made by the committee, and the parent is provided with community-based resources for additional support as well. If the victims don't want to be involved, that's kind of the discretion of the victim and the JCC coordinator as well. Sometimes there can be safety issues, just I don't want to see this, child that just did this to my property issues. If the victim doesn't want to join, I don't think it's as effective on the restorative justice model, but I still think it's a good program to do overall. Forming a JCC, where do you start? Review your data, where are the needs? Utilize partnerships with law enforcement. Recruit interested community members. So some ideas for that could be going to town hall meetings, faith-based communities, current community volunteers, law enforcement suggestions. If you don't have access to data, to make a data-informed decision as to where you want to start this, having a general understanding of your community will suffice. Finding those first couple volunteers can probably be the hardest part of the process. Ideas for looking can be reaching out to law enforcement to see who they work with in the community. But we found a lot of success in the faith-based field, especially with the mentorship with that as well. Word of mouth is also especially important for finding like-minded individuals who care for the well-being of their community. I mean, these are all volunteers doing this as well. And so there's 3 direct stakeholder groups: the juvenile, the offender in the situation, the victim, and then the community. So those volunteers and that law enforcement that come to those meetings. Also finding an accessible venue within the community. A church, library, community center, ideally a non-biased space though. I don't know if you want to host this at the court or a police station. I think something out in the community is served best for our model here. Benefits of utilizing community members. They know their community resources. They're familiar with the issues facing youth in their community. With a good cross-section of community volunteers, the process is non-threatening, non-adversarial, and informal. And they have a stake in the community and therefore in reducing juvenile delinquency. I think restorative justice feels like it lands better when the community members are the ones with the vested interest in the discipline and the treatment. I also believe the family and youth buy into the process a little more because it's way easier to commit a crime in an area you have no ties to, don't know any of the people. But now by meeting this panel of community members, you not only realize the scope of your actions, but that your actions affect more than just you, and there's truly a village of people that care about you. Volunteers are also sworn in as community deputy juvenile officers due to the confidentiality of working with juveniles. And so on that left side, they have a picture of some members being sworn in. The requirements for that are 21 plus with a successful background check, a resident of that community, ability to remain objective and confidential, and understanding of issues facing youth in that specific area. Maintaining buy-in and sustainability. Committees are only required to meet monthly, once a month, and only if cases are available. They'll meet on the same day every month. They initially ask for a 2-year commitment to the process, and all communication is organized by the JCC coordinator. I spoke with Mary as to what her buy-in looks like and what the commitment's like. She said she's hardly had anyone that wants to leave the committee since she's been in the position. In fact, the vast majority of people stay on much longer than those 2 years. And if and when someone decides to leave, she's kind of set up a system in place to where they can find a replacement, good word of mouth for it. I think one of the biggest sustainability tactics you can implement is just communicating you are appreciating the work they're doing. These volunteers already have a passion for this work that isn't monetarily driven. So just keeping up with encouraging and engaging with communication throughout the year. On these pictures on the bottom here, we have in April, the St. Louis County Family Court hosts their annual volunteer recognition dinner. All of the volunteers that work with the court in any capacity are invited. They're honored with an award by judiciaries there, police chiefs. On the left there is one of the police chiefs for Normandy. We have court staff, and they enjoy a nice dinner as well. Here's some of the outcome measures for the JCC program, just looking at some testimonials, and then we have a couple data points on there as well. 95% of youth responding to the survey said they agreed or would strongly agree that they would use the skills they learned in the future. There were 109 youth served in 2024. And 92% of parents responded to the survey said they agreed or strongly agreed that they would recommend the JCC program to other families. All right, and then lastly, we're going to get into our newly formed Parent Conversations group. This is an opportunity set aside for parents and caregivers of youth who currently have an active case with the St. Louis County Juvenile Office to listen, share, and learn. Meetings are held every other month and are open to all levels of delinquency-involved youth with St. Louis County. They have to have an active case with us to be invited to this. Looking at the structure of this, the structure needs to be designed to where directors, administrators, and chiefs who aren't often afforded the opportunity to hear directly from parents are given that opportunity. It's dually as important because as we start to find out these things that the court can improve upon process-wise, you need the right people there who can implement policy or procedural changes. Other staff can attend as needed, or if the conversation leans towards someone's wheelhouse, but you don't want it to be too impartial or biased toward the juvenile office. Just this last one we had, we invited the detention programming staff. Something we found out from one of our meetings was that parents weren't sure what was going on in program-wise for their kids in detention. And so they, from this group, made a brand new packet that has pictures, descriptions for everything, every program that's offered down there can be distributed toward the parents. Just one of the examples from stuff we've learned from this before. Meetings are held every other month with planning meetings in between. The 21st Circuit Family Court partners with Vision for Children at Risk, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the well-being of children, families, and the community. The reason we partner with them is we have a representative. Well, they're able to offer wraparound services for parents and caregivers as well, but they also provide a non-biased kind of facilitator, moderator for these things. And so we've found out that some of these end up being more educational. Some of, end up being more, we learn from them. It's also emerging as like an emotional support group as well, because you're not going to be in contact with these other parents in the field we have here. Planning and sustainability. How do you get the word out for parents? And so our judiciary has been crucial in this. Having buy-in and participation from the judiciary has made this process very successful. Families who attend court are reminded of the meeting and how to attend. Public defenders are given these flyers as well to give to their clients. Flyers are created and distributed in courtrooms and around the juvenile office for every session. And the biggest driver is deputy juvenile officers, the actual caseworkers, who communicate directly with these families. They are able to communicate to parents the opportunity to ask questions to staff they wouldn't normally get the chance to. They can offer feedback and generally just gain a better understanding of the system than what their assigned caseworker may have the time to provide to them. We also learned from some of these parents that they don't want to bother their caseworker with kind of overall court questions as well. And another thing we've got is a parent liaison from this. So we've had a parent that started with us that we've identified who can serve as an advocate for other parents who are going through the same experiences, and it's been very beneficial. She attends every meeting and helps educate other parents while providing perspective from a role that isn't the juvenile office. And she gives very, real and relatable experiences. We didn't, tell her to say any certain things. I mean, she just tells it straight, and I think it's a very good connection moment for the other parents that are in the room. Some of the meeting content. And so on those months that we don't have it, we have a monthly planning session. These are virtual meetings with team to decide what type of material should be covered. When we were starting out, I'm not sure, we went with the detention admission process, kind of started from the bottom up. We're getting a lot more detention involved families than we are just regular supervision families, we've noticed as well. We've talked about detention programming, general family court procedures, supervision procedures, asking the families what would they like to know, giving time to educate the parents and caretakers, but also allowing more time to hear from them and learn as necessary. The vast bulk of the time is spent listening to caregivers on feedback, general questions, opportunities for improvement, and things that have been done well. None of these have ever really turned into like a gripe session. It's usually all pretty constructive, good ideas, things, very easy things we can fix that we thought we were doing well that we can just get a little more efficient on. Meetings are facilitated by one of our community partners with Vision for Children at Risk. She's able to moderate discussion between juvenile office staff and caregivers, serves as an impartial moderator to make sure points are being clearly communicated from both parties. And she also reiterates these sort of meetings are designed to foster partnerships between the juvenile office and caregivers and not have a sense of distrust or an us versus them mentality, kind of breaking down these old school thoughts on what the system is, too. This is one of our flyers we put up here, just showing what it looks like. And if you got Canva, it can make you a graphic designer pro in like 2 days. It's pretty easy. And then I also wanted to share, lastly, our initial growing pains and then some of the benefits we've got from this as well. And so some of the things I've noticed is sustaining parent attendance. The target audience for these types of events is already a pretty limited pool. You can't really advertise or market for it besides, within the courthouse and the caseworkers. So sustaining that attendance can be a little difficult sometimes. Some parents who come only come for 1 or 2 sessions to have their questions answered or feedback heard. Some are in it, kind of for the long run. Some parents have children that are involved for very little time. Some have kids that are in our facility for 200, 300 plus days. And so they could be coming for a while to these things. But then making sure staff, judiciary, communicating the opportunity to the families. I think the big thing is that we're just offering at least an opportunity. Sometimes you get better attendance than others, but I think it's a great thing to offer. Also, developing a time for the meetings that works best for the families you serve. We've experimented with different times, Monday through Friday, during the lunch hour, in the evening. We haven't tried weekend mornings yet, but I think some of the families that work with us also have scheduling, transportation, and work availability issues, single parent households oftentimes too, that kind of make attending these meetings difficult. But I also just want to reiterate, quality over quantity. We've had times where we've had 2 to 3 parents there before and learned a whole lot of stuff, and we've had 6 to 7 parents come. We just kind of want to share some stories. And so those are just some of the pains we've run into starting this thing up. But the benefits far outweigh the pains. One of the biggest eye-opening things was just hearing from ways we can improve court procedures that aren't anything super complex. We had discovered there was a lack of information being provided to parents upon their child being admitted to the detention facility from the screening unit, and when detention actually calls to reach out to the parents. We sat in this meeting and heard this mother cry about all the horrible things she thought was happening to her son based on, media, movies, stigmas, when in reality, we told her what was going on and how the facility operates and how that could be fixed with a phone call, with just better information on the front end. And then I also spoke about the parents didn't know what programs were available in detention. And so the detention team did a great job creating that booklet that just has pictures, descriptions, can encourage their child to participate too, and kind of let parents know they're not just sitting there fighting in detention all day. Emotional support group. Initially, during the planning stages in the first meeting or two, the focus was more on education and listening. But as we've kind of built up some of the people who come to this, it's evolved into a space where caregivers can confidently share these lived experiences with the only other people who have also been through these experiences. Even though the court staff's there, there's still a bit of a barrier between you are the system and we're the parents involved in this. And so having those other parents that don't have any involvement with the court has been very helpful for us. And then parent advisory board as well. Through the parent conversation meetings, we've identified a parent who is willing to serve as a family navigator, which will help advocate and support families currently going through the juvenile system. They will also be more involved with sharing their opinions with the court and attending community-related events, advocating from a parent's point of view. I know that was a lot. I feel like I went through that pretty quick, but I just wanted to highlight the 3 major ones that St. Louis County is offering here. And then we have a ton of things that just kind of fall in between, but we definitely prioritize getting out in the community, always expanding, how we can be more engaged with the community as well.
Thanks, Riley. We do have a question. I know everyone always wants to know where the funding comes from to be able to provide all these awesome services. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so we work with Annie Casey Foundation, and then we also we get a grant through them, and we also get a grant through Division of Youth Services for family engagement as well. So without speaking too much farther than that, I know that's 2 of our general funding sources. And so with those community collaborative events, we go through more of the Annie Casey grant money with that. And then some of our smaller family engagement stuff, we'll try to use the other grant.
That's great. So it sounds like mostly grant funded then.
Yes.
Yep. I was also curious how long you've been doing the juvenile or the JCCs, the Juvenile Conference Committees.
Those were started back in 2000 from
Oh,
the
wow.
history I've read and speaking to the coordinator now. Now, the current coordinator has not been there, but they were started in the 2000s and they were based off of a model that I cannot, it slipped my head right now, so I don't want to speak to it. But they've been in St. Louis County since 2000.
Wow. That's awesome. We have
Mhm.
another question. Are there ways that the juvenile attorneys could help in these efforts since we're normally behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think that's more on my end. I try and, rotate different staff in. Part of my job is sending out, emails from community partners, things that we're doing internally as well. And so just communicating that out there. But yeah, I think for legal, they are left out of a few things. But, we always try and rotate in new staff, try and get these opportunities out to people when we can court-wide and see if they're able to attend or get involved on their own.
So just making sure that they get invited, it sounds like. And then,
Yeah.
yep. What tips do you offer for gaining judiciary and leadership buy-in?
That's a good question, especially because I didn't have to do too much walking into this position. And that can change, based on the judge who's presiding at the time too. I mean, you could have a judge that's very willing to work with you. I would suggest setting up a meeting with them, going over just basic data, just basic ways that you can start in the community. I can't imagine any judge in family court is opposed to, treatment and community-based treatment and restorative justice practices. And so I think just starting that conversation, if they are opposed to it, if you need to bring data to kind of back up why this could be good, we have different levels of programs we do with like the JCC can be funded on anyone's payroll, like a deputy juvenile officer's payroll within the court. They're all volunteers that are coming with it. The spaces can often be rented out for free, based on just who we work with and the work we're doing, up to, some of the more heavily funded stuff. And so I think you can always start that conversation with some of the lower end community-based practices and see how willing the judiciary is to partner with you. I would bring some data though, or something as to why this would be effective, kind of reiterate your point.
Have you ever had to do that, like when a judge changes? Have you had to garner their buy-in yet?
I've been in this position a year and a half, and I've been very blessed to have complete judicial buy-in. We have four four juvenile judges, and then that directly handle delinquency cases, and we have another one that works with us as well. And they've been great so far. I haven't had to have that conversation, and so I don't have as much experience with that.
Thanks. Thomas asked, do you think an explanation of the juvenile point system would help parents who participate?
Yeah, we have gone over that. I don't love the point system name on it because I feel like it just sounds like a system thing. But that's our statewide juvenile detention assessment tool. We've brought that out 2 meetings before, kind of explained, this, if you get presented here in St. Louis City or Jefferson City, everything is an objective scoring tool and should be scored the same. And so we've brought that up educationally wise. You can find it online too. Showed them what the tool was, this is why you got detained, 15 points or more. That conditional release line too, and then release as well. So we have explained that at some of our court conversation meetings. I think as, parents, especially the ones that have a child that's getting locked up, as they meet with their deputy juvenile officer, they'll kind of go over that form and kind of learn it from that too.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions? And feel free to take yourself off mute and ask. I feel like he provided us with such amazing and a lot of information. You guys are doing so much. It's pretty
Yeah, and
amazing.
I don't have access to the chat. I forgot to post my email on this slide. So if you want to reach out to me about anything, tips on what we're doing, how I could reach out to you and help you out with anything, I will post. Let me go to the chat really quick.
I got it.
Okay.
This was such an excellent presentation with so much information. I'm just excited about the work that they're doing there. You talked about the judiciary buy-in, but leadership there does influence so much of that. And so can you talk a little bit about the leadership experiences? Because I think that that actually influences and even probably frames how the judiciary will respond to it based upon the court's leadership, the management and the administration of the court.
Yeah,
What do you
you
think
know,
about that?
so I've been here for a year and a half now with St. Louis County. Obviously, Rick is our chief juvenile officer, and then Ben Burkemper is our court administrator. I mean, those two often meet, and then they often meet with our presiding judge, or sorry, the can't think of his name, but the juvenile judge that's ahead of the other ones, Judge Dotson as well. They often have meetings. I can't speak to their interactions, but Rick and Ben have always provided great leadership for St. Louis County. They're always very progressive, trying to, get involved with a lot of things. Rick will often come up to me with projects and ideas as to how we can get more involved in the community and kind of go from there. And so I think having progressive leaders like that is huge, especially with working with the judges as well.
Absolutely. And I agree. And I kind of suspect that from looking at some of the projects and activities coming from your area. I was just wondering about some of the other areas. Are there some projects and some activities that you would like to share or add to some of the work that Ryla has done? Because I know from Red, I'm hearing a lot of different activities, and perhaps there's some things that you would like to add that might benefit the audience. If there's anyone who would like to, this is an opportunity. Teresa and some of you, I've got two Teresas, but some of you who are doing this work also.
I'll speak on one more thing I just recently attended. The St. Louis City hosted a Red Racial and Ethnic Disparity Community Forum at Harris Stowe State.
Yeah,
They had a panel of law enforcement. They had a juvenile that is currently on probation, service providers, parents. I mean, just supporting stuff like that. They did a great job with that. I try and support St. Louis City with whatever we can whenever they offer stuff out, and they do the same for us. So.
that's wonderful. All right. Well, it's been an excellent, excellent presentation. And I would just like to say again, thank you, Riley, for all of the work. I hope that if you have any questions or any other information that you'd like to receive from him, that you did get his email address. And I'll turn it over to Liz because she does have some announcements. And I want to acknowledge, as she does her announcements, guest by invitation, Jermaine Gaspard, who is a state trooper, who will be presenting and coming up in August. And Liz will be putting up his information too. Jermaine is there. Hey, can we see you, Jermaine? Where are you? He may have had to come off, but he was on through the entire presentation up until a minute ago. But anyway, this is Jermaine Gaspard, who is a state trooper, and he will be presenting on our next lunchtime, August 20th, on maturation, momentum, and meaning, reframing human development as a predictor of youth performance and potential. He has an organization where they do coaching and mentoring, but they look at the pre and post justice involved children and try to guide them and provide skills for them to become entrepreneurs. So many of them start their own businesses from this project as early as ages 13 and 14. So Jermaine is going to talk about this and share some of the activities that they've had. He's been a wonderful support and a coach in the Dallas community and area and throughout the country because he's worked in Louisiana with some of their projects as well. So we're excited that he will be with us on the next lunchtime.
And I will be, we actually just got this all together today. So I will get the registration link and get everything put up online and sent out to everyone so you can get registered for next month. And yep, I saw him on there as well. So appreciate that. I did put the link for the survey in the chat. Please take that. It just takes a minute or two. And then again, if you have ideas for future speakers, or if you have a program or something that you're doing that's awesome in your own court or community, please share that with us. We'd love to have you share that with everyone. We also, let's see. If you haven't, please register to attend our Teaming Up to Break the School to Prison Pipeline. It's a free virtual conference coming up on July 29th and 30th with the world-renowned speaker, John O'Leary. I've actually just heard that his movie is coming out. So that means his prices are doubling for speaker fees. So we are lucky we got in before that, along with some other fantastic speakers. So please join us for that. All of that information can be found on stopRED.org. Thanks again for joining us today. Thank you, Riley and St. Louis County, for sharing all of your great work. And we really hope to see you next month.
Okay. And we have the surveys up, right, Liz?
Yes, the survey link is in the chat.
All righty then. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of the afternoon. Bye-bye.